Hi students, this week we are going to start a unit on personal financial literacy, which is basically learning about money and how to use it when you get older. So make sure you've watched this video online, it's pretty quick, and then if you're able to, print out the notes that go along with this lesson before you start. I've taken the notes and put them into a PowerPoint just so it's a little bit easier to go through. So this week we're going to focus on debit cards and credit cards, and they have some similarities and some differences, but it's really important to understand the difference between the two as you get older and you start making spending choices. So a credit card, it is a small plastic card that is issued by a financial company to borrow money that you will repay later. So that's really important, that word borrow. When you're using a credit card, you're not using your own money. You're using credit that's being given to you. A debit card is also a small plastic card. So they're both plastic. They're both used to pay for things. A debit card is usually issued by a bank, sometimes some other financial institution, and it immediately transfers money out of your account. So the credit card is using money that you don't really have, or you might have, but it's in a different account and you have to pay it back. A debit card comes straight from your bank account. And there's good and bad about both. Okay, the next parts of your notes, it is a lot of writing, so you can pause this video at whenever you need it. It's not like our usual notes. There's more writing than there is actual math this time, which some of you will like and some of you will not like. So with a credit card, you apply for it. There's Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express are the main ones in America. And based on your job and how old you are, how much credit history you have, you're going to be given a limit. Now, usually you're going to start with a pretty small limit, and then as you get older, it can increase. So when you want to buy something with a credit card, you charge it. So you're not using your own money that you have in your possession, you're using the credit that the company is giving to you. A bill is sent to you to pay at a later date, and the financial company will charge you interest if you do not pay your balance in full. So every credit card has a certain day of the month where the statement closes. So if you do not pay off the balance of things that you've bought by that date, they will charge you interest on it. So with a credit card, you can end up spending more money on an item than it actually costs. So that is a credit card. Biggest thing, again, you're spending money that you don't necessarily have. It's credit given to you by a company. A debit card is tied to a checking account. So when you open your first bank account, you might get a debit card to go along with it. It looks almost exactly like a credit card. But with a debit card, you can only spend the amount of money that is in your checking account. Now, there should be a star or something by this because banks will allow you most of the time to spend a little more than what you actually have in there. That's called overdrafting your account, but it will only let you go so far. So you can spend what you have in your account, maybe a little bit more. Credit card, you can spend all the way up into the limit that they give you. And sometimes they do give you a really large limit, much larger than you really should have. So you have to be careful. So there are some good things about credit cards. They sound kind of scary, but they do help you build your credit. And your credit is a score given to you. The score tells lenders how much of a risk you are to give credit to. So you want a high credit score. You want to make sure you don't do anything to mess up your credit. That way when you go to buy a house or a car or you want to buy furniture, you can get a good interest rate and people will actually be willing to give you credit. Tricky thing about it is to build it, you have to have somebody to give you a chance in the first place. So when you get your first credit card, you need to be very careful with how you use it. A lot of credit cards will offer rewards. They'll give you cash back rewards. I know you see it on TV, on commercials all the time. They'll give you airline miles and things like that, which it can be really good if you use it right. You can get cash back and you're basically earning money from using your credit card. However, a lot of people do think they're going to use it that way and then they mess it up. Credit cards are convenient and easy to use. They're helpful in emergencies. So sometimes things come up, you get injured, your car breaks, and you might not have the money in your bank account to cover all of what you need. And so you could use a credit card and then pay over time the cost of your car repair or whatever it is. Another good thing about credit cards, and I use mine to do this, like if I'm getting gas or somewhere where people can attach things to steal your identity, if they take your credit card, they're not draining your bank account, which is your actual cash. They're just using your credit limit, which you can get it investigated and get it reversed. So those are the good things about credit cards. Debit cards have advantages too. They are convenient, just like the credit cards. Debit cards have a PIN number. Now, most of them can be ran as a credit card too, but mostly you'll have a 4-digit number that you choose, and it's kind of an extra security measure that goes along with the card. And PIN stands for personal identification number. Debit cards can also be used in an ATM to get cash back. So if you have your plastic card, you need actual cash money, you can go to an ATM, or a lot of stores will give you cash back when you buy something. Now, credit cards, some of them will give you cash as well, but they're going to charge you a fee. Debit cards, if you use approved ATMs, you can get the cash for free without a fee. Now, this statement I don't necessarily agree with. Debit cards has no chance of going into debt. On your notes, I want you to add there's no chance of going into major debt with a debit card. There are limits on how far you can go into debt, just like I was talking about earlier. You can do something called overdrafting your account. That's where you spend more than what you actually have in. Sometimes when you purchase things, they don't show up to your bank account for a couple of days. So you think you have money, and then it's spent on something else, and then that purchase hits later, and it will overdraft your account. When that happens, you're charged a fee, and you've got to pay that fee back. And if you get into too much trouble, you will have a lot of fees and a lot of money that you have to pay back. And so you can get into some trouble with a debit card. It just limits how far. Credit card, like I said, it can give you a big limit. Like, seems like you have all this money to spend, but then that money has to be paid back. So you really do have to be careful using both. You've got to keep track of your money, keep a budget, and pay attention to what you're doing. So those are the advantages, the good things about credit cards and debit cards. You'll need that for your quiz. Disadvantages. These are the negative things about both. So like I said earlier, if you carry a balance, if you don't pay off all the money that you've used from your credit card each month, you will be charged interest. So if you buy something for $200, depending on how long you let it go, you might end up paying $300 for it when it's all said and done. It can be easy to overspend with credit cards. A lot of people do it. College in your early 20s is the biggest time where people make mistakes. So you guys just remember this when you get a little bit older and don't make those mistakes. And then there's late fees if you pay your balance late. There's fees if you use your credit card for cash back. Some of them it's a really big fee. And then some credit cards also charge annual fees to you. So that's just other things that are going to add up to charge you more money. Disadvantages of a debit card, like I said earlier, you can get an overdraft fee. And then another thing to think about now with identity theft, if somebody gets your information, they can drain your bank account if they're getting your debit card information. Whereas with a credit card, they're going to run up your limit, but then hopefully you can correct that later. So these notes can be used on your quiz this week. It's going to help you a lot if you keep these and refer to them. I hope if you didn't print them, you at least took some notes down on some paper. This is almost the last week of school. We have one more short week after this. I cannot believe it. So you guys are doing great. Let me know if you have any questions, and have a great week.